Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 160 of the It's a Pictures podcast. My name is John Gilpatrick, and joining me, as always, is...
A man who's swamped by DVD screeners, Max Colville.
The problems of the critic. How many more free movies will I get and must I watch?
I know. It's such a difficult problem to have. It's such what is it, like a 0.1%? No, it must even be less than that, John, right? Like 0.01% of people suffer from this problem.
Oh, way less than that.
0.001?
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. But it's really small. In the world, there's 7 billion people.
Yeah, it must be infinitesimal.
I think so. But it is a thing. I got my fair share myself. I just don't feel the same obligation to watch them that you do. But that's great. That's good. You're going to have a very full list of titles to consider by the end of the year, and I'm going to name the 10 movies that I saw probably.
No, I mean, if you see 10 that you want to see, then you can rank them and see like which ones of those 10 you like the best.
I think that's what I'm going to do.
Wonderful.
I just need to make sure I see 10 before then. But yeah, that's what you're up to. I'm just still reveling in, we're gonna talk football. But Eagles victory last night over the Chiefs. So,
being the old that I am, I fell asleep before the game was over.
Oh, if only I was up for like 3 hours after, just trying to like relax myself.
Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah, I know.
Big games.
That's what you're going to be like when the first overall pick in the draft comes through this year.
Yeah, well, football wise, I mean, I felt that way with the Bruins and Celtics this past year.
Of course. Cool. All right, so that's what's going on. We're going to talk. We've done now a few episodes in a row, just kind of highlighting a director who's got a new movie out, and we're going to keep that trend going this week with the great. Is he a sir? I think he's a sir. Ridley Scott?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. One of the great grouches of our time, I think.
Right up there with Paul Schrader, right?
Well, he's a different breed of grouch, I think. But I don't know.
Yeah.
He just seems like he's always kind of got I hate this opinion about something or another. But nevertheless, he still does make some pretty good movies. And his latest is Napoleon. Have you seen Napoleon yet?
No. There was one press screening, and I guess like as we're recording it, it's starting to kick out into theaters.
Right, yeah. So I wasn't sure, but yeah, that's his latest, and should be an interesting one. We'll just kind of run through his directorial career and some highlights and lowlights, and see what comes of it. In the meantime, there's been news. One of my favorite villains of the year has been this is David Zaslav?
I think so.
David, whatever. I just call him Zaslav.
Yeah,
but he's
good.
The CEO of Warner Brothers, Warner Discovery, whatever it's
Warner
called.
Brothers Discovery. Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, and he just has, I think, made kind of confounding choice after confounding choice all year long. And the latest, arguably one of the most egregious, is the scrapping of this movie, Coyote versus Acme. And you're like, well, hey, what? Movies get scrapped all the time, John. What's the fuss, right? Here's the fuss, guys. The fuss is that this movie was done, and this movie was apparently awesome.
Correct. They had a lot of test screenings, and people enjoyed it. Apparently, like the movie is like Wile E. Coyote had like idea that maybe the Acme company has been selling them bad products all
maybe
along.
The problem's not me.
Yeah. And he has to go against this big conglomerate.
Yeah, so that is he's right. So he's going up against the man, and in this real world case, the man said, "No, thank you. We need to put those ideas out in the world today." And they thought, well, let's get fancy here and get a tax write-off. And there's a lot of outcry, right?
Yeah, not only, because the movie was done and there's people involved, and that there were some people who thought that when they shelved Batgirl, that was going to be like a one and done thing. Like, oh, they were just going to clean house a little bit there. Not that they would keep on doing it ad infinitum. And so people are like, yeah, any director that wants to work with Warner Brothers maybe should think again, because maybe their thing will get shelved after working on it for like a year.
Right, yeah.
Um,
So there was people canceling meetings at Warner Brothers. Um, a lot of people who had seen cuts of the movie had spoken out, just saying like, there's really no great reason for this. Especially because there was, yeah, like these other studios that were like, oh, we're interested in that project. It sounds good. So they could have sold it, but apparently what they were really looking for was a boost to the quarterly earnings sheet, and the easiest way to do that is to just write it off.
yeah, and so as you said, like they were like maybe they could sell it off, and so I guess that's where the story has turned. Is like they're looking to see if some other studio wants to acquire the project so that it won't be shelved entirely. But doesn't it seem weird that Warner Brothers is shopping a Looney Tunes movie? It's like that's so a Looney Tunes movie might open underneath another banner, which is just kind of wild.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird. It's sad. They should be ashamed, I think. I know they aren't and won't be, but just yeah, it's just kind of sad, I guess. At the same time, people said that about what Star Wars probably, and it's a Disney property now.
Right. But Zaslav wasn't done making headlines last week
Oh boy.
because he's quoted as saying in the Hollywood Reporter that the striking writers were, quote, right about almost everything.
Ah,
Um, so he's like, so what if we overpay? I've never regretted overpaying for great talent or a great asset. So maybe he's trying to like cover his butt, saying like, oh yeah, I was for it the whole time, and these writers deserve their compensation. But it definitely feels like a foot and mouth type deal at this point, and um, it's obvious that he is a businessman first, and um, concerned about the artistic merits of movies like A Distant Tenth.
yeah.
Like he could give two shits about the art in movies and these artistic endeavors. He's just in it to make a buck. So
Yeah, I guess that's like I get that, but just go into business elsewhere, you asshole. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I could go on and on about that. I think we can probably just leave it there. In other news, well, I had seen parts of this, and then you shared the rest, and I was excited. But James Cameron's releasing like three-quarters of his filmography in 4K, coming up over the next several months, right?
yeah, and not just 4K, but like Blu-ray for the first time, John. It's like
Well, for
some,
some.
yeah, for some of these they've been long unavailable, and um, so I think it covers like Aliens, which is a sequel to one of the movies we'll probably talk about tonight.
Yeah, yeah.
Then there's True Lies, which is this great action flick. There's The Abyss, which I've actually never seen, and I'm excited to see.
I love The Abyss. So that's what I had seen that The Abyss was complete his, finagling with it, and it was coming to theaters for one night only on December 6th.
Yes. And then I was like, I have a conflict that night, and Mr. James Cameron, can you please like pick another date to show
I'm
that?
so excited.
But yeah, if I don't get to see it in theater, I'm definitely picking up the 4K.
Yeah.
That's something I'm interested in seeing. And all these directors have their little things, and obviously James Cameron's thing is water.
Yeah, right.
So not only are those three projects being taken to Blu-ray and 4K, but also the two Avatar movies are receiving like collector's editions in 4K, and Titanic is also coming out soon. And
May have heard of it.
actually, I have it in my house now and was watching it a little bit.
Will Your Heart Go On?
Oh, that movie's so good, John. I mean,
It's very good. It's a
I,
good picture.
I mean, maybe as a kid, like when I was like 12 or 13 when that movie came out, it was really cool to be like a young boy and hate on it because it's like all the girls liked it because of the romance,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
the
for
Neon
sure.
on song. But like, that's a really good movie. The romance is great. The acting is fantastic. It has
Yeah.
a large ensemble that's really good, and you get this big action disaster movie in there too. So, um, yeah, it's just wall to wall, really entertaining movie. And uh, yeah, you imagine like there's so many people out there now since it's been out for like 25 years that like has never seen Titanic.
It's
And like,
weird to think about. It was such like
yeah,
a huge part of our lives. It was just everywhere, and it was at a seminal part of our lives, I think, for you and I, where it was like, you know, we're just being able to start consuming this type of pop culture.
right. And it's just like I know friends who have like 10-year-olds. And I'm like, oh, they're gonna be like appropriate for Titanic soon, and that's just like bonkers to think about.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting.
Although, let's face it, I probably saw the movie when I was 12 or 13, and everybody was like, "Well, Max, you could see this movie even though there's boobs in it,"
Yeah, yeah.
and it's a cultural phenomenon. You should see it anyways. I was like,
Yeah, yeah. Well, the boobs were a cultural phenomenon in some ways too. But as well
will
as
you
the
draw me as one of your French ladies, John?
okay, sure. I was gonna say the steamy hand in the car.
Yes.
But yeah, so that's pretty exciting. I mean, I mean, I know like a little bit just about the Abyss and just its unavailability for a long time. Um, and that like he was just working on that on and off forever, it seems like, and the fact that it's he's kind of got it to the point where he's happy with it is pretty exciting. And I
Yeah,
really like can't recommend the movie highly enough. I think it's awesome.
yeah, and I mean like even like Aliens and True Lies. I mean like Aliens is fantastic and like a far different movie than Alien, and despite having some of the same characters and um, setup, but yeah, it's just funny. It's like sequels that couldn't be like more different from each other, but still
Yeah,
phenomenal.
yeah, 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 absolutely. Um, cool. All right. And then finally, there's going to be a live action Legend of Zelda movie, and I could speak to the previous two topics a little bit, but I can't say anything about this because I don't really know anything about Legend of Zelda. So you're going to need to lead the way.
Yeah, I guess you're not much of a video game player, huh, John?
Not really.
Yeah, so Legend of Zelda, one of the biggest games on the
I mean,
planet,
I've
one
heard
of
of
the
it,
biggest
but
franchises. What's funny to me is like they just decided to go ahead and do live action, and they were like, "Well, we're not going to try to do an animated thing like we did with Mario," and go in a different direction. And I guess the director being tagged for it right now is the same director who's working on the new Planet of the Apes movie. Um, there was like a long trailer that came out for that recently. I was like, wait, this is a thing that's being made, and so that's going to be like the fourth prequel movie. Um, so yeah, so I think he was the director of like the Maze Runner series, John. And they were like saying like how maybe the kid that was in Maze Runner would be like appropriate to play Link, which is the hero of the Legend of Zelda. But I'm like, I don't know. They'll probably want to find a name because that person will be carrying the movie for sure.
yeah. Is Link somehow involved in this?
No, no, Link is the hero.
Okay, then who's Zelda?
Zelda is the princess that needs saving.
Oh, understood. Okay, yeah.
Yes, as a child, I never really understood that for a long time until like later, and then I was like, why did they name the game after the woman that needs saving? It
Yeah,
felt
come
weird.
on, the nerve of those women.
um,
Okay, yeah, I know Link from Super Smash Brothers.
yeah, there you go.
I played that in college some.
Yeah, same
Um,
same link.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, cool. All right, so that's some of the news that's been out in the ether of late. Let's talk some Ridley Scott. As I tend to do, before we jump into filmographies, like do you remember your first Ridley Scott movie? Do you remember kind of like your first impressions or awareness of him as a filmmaker?
Yeah, it was definitely Gladiator.
Yeah, same.
Um, I don't think I was old enough at the time to watch Alien, and maybe I didn't love horror movies, and then like maybe Blade Runner was something that like I knew was aware of, and then really catch on of its importance until later. Maybe even watching Blade Runner now is like coming to terms with the fact that this movie is not a quick action movie. It's a very like philosophical
Yeah.
movie of very little action. So I think that definitely it was Gladiator, and I thought that movie was just like the coolest thing as like a 15-year-old. Like, oh man, this guy is like going from nothing and like
Yeah,
getting
it
revenge.
definitely ripped for sure. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. Alien. Like, I actually, my parents showed me Aliens like when I was like 6. For some reason, I don't really know why. But I found it like really exciting, but also distressing. But we never watched Alien. I think because it was probably like easier to handle the kind of actiony, Rambo style uh, that Cameron has going on versus what Alien is, which is a lot more like deliberative and just straight horror-y. Um, but so I didn't see Alien until much later. I saw Thelma and Louise at some point when I was like fairly young, but I think I saw Gladiator first because that was just such a hot movie in the turn of the century there, and obviously won Best Picture. I didn't see it in theaters, but I think I saw it on video. Um, and then after that, I don't think I would have seen anything until like Kingdom of Heaven, which I did see in theaters. And I've seen like I would say most everything since then, but not absolutely everything that he's released. I mean, there was a while where he was like super prolific, and then he'll take like a couple of years break and then come back and again be like super prolific and take a few years break. So like he didn't make any feature movies from 2017 until 2021, but then he had 2 movies come out within like a month that year. And he's back again this year 2 years later, so kind of works at an interesting pace, I guess.
Yeah, and looking at his filmography, there's definitely like things that I've missed here because he has such a big library. And I was trying to watch some of the more popular ones that I hadn't seen, and I will talk about Thelma and Louise tonight because that was one that I caught up with, thanks to a Criterion release earlier this year that I
Mm-hmm.
had. But the one that I didn't watch that like I had intentions to was Black Hawk Down.
Okay.
And I feel like that movie always gets mentioned, or like there's like I don't know a proclivity for people to like lean towards that. They like really think that's a great war movie. I don't know. I'm assuming you've seen it, but
No, I've actually never seen it either.
oh,
And I feel like I kind of feel the opposite almost, where it's like I think that was a big movie when it came out, but it kind of just like fell to like it was like a flash in the pan thing where it's like I don't hear much about it these days. I feel like it was more a product of the moment. But again, maybe it's just what I read and see versus you. I'm not sure, but I definitely feel like that's something that I don't know. I probably should. It's like weird that I haven't seen it, but yeah, I haven't.
let's see here. Like, so I'm gonna open. This won't make for good radio, but I'm gonna open my Letterbox account and look up Ridley Scott and just see how many films of his that I've seen.
Okay, that you've logged at least
Well, I'm pretty prolific.
for your whole life.
No, well, no, you just hit the I button and say that you've seen it.
Oh,
I'm saying like I've probably done that to all the films that I've seen.
I get you. Okay, fair enough.
Uh, this list isn't good. This is films produced by Ridley Scott. Let's find like
Oh,
films
come
directed by,
on.
right?
Yeah.
Um, let's see, best to worst. That will help. It says, according to this list, I've only seen 11 of his films,
Okay.
so they're not too many,
It's still a decent number.
I suppose. I haven't. So instead of going through what we haven't seen,
Yeah.
let's go back to
Well,
what.
let's talk about the big 1-2 punch of his early career. I mean, we don't have
Okay,
to like dwell on either of these movies, but
because
we
I'm
did.
sure we've talked about them
Yeah, I'm
throughout the
sure we've
years.
talked about them, but like, I want to ask you a very specific question. Like, does he ever top Alien and Blade Runner?
No.
No. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I don't actually. I'll say I don't think he's ever topped Alien. I don't like Blade Runner that much.
That's
I think it's
fair.
a well-made movie, but it just like doesn't really do anything for me. Um, that like I saw Blade Runner like late in my life. Like we were probably podcasting by the time I got around to seeing it. Um, and I felt like I had seen other movies that probably rip off Blade Runner, right? But like I found more engaging than Blade Runner itself. So I can like recognize that it's an important movie and it has a lot of great ideas, but like I only watched it that one time and like I've never really felt compelled to go back to it and I don't really know what it's going to take for me to feel that way. Alien on the other hand just is like the coolest. And I love that movie so much and like I said, I saw Aliens at a young age, so I felt like I had this kind of like inherent connection to Ripley in the world. But it took me a while to see Alien. I didn't watch it until college, and it's just like I just loved it, and I knew everything that was going to happen. Like at that point,
Yeah.
like you know just enough by immersing yourself in film culture to know that like they're going to get the chest busting scene, you're going to get gooey Ian Holm and all this stuff, and it doesn't really disappoint at all. Still,
Yeah, and like I think like something that definitely is the reason for the success of the Alien franchise overall is the art and the production design
yeah,
and everything like that. I think it was like what H.R. Geiger,
yeah, I believe so.
and it's just that is so iconic in the way that all those designs were made and um just really shouts home. I mean, like you lose a little bit of that when Ridley Scott decided to revisit the Alien franchise later with Prometheus
We'll
and
talk about that in a bit. Yeah.
yeah, and Alien Covenant. But, yeah, it's funny, John. It's like I think I watch Alien sometimes, and I say like how much like I admire it and enjoy it, and then like Shannon will like look over my shoulder or like be in the room and be like, you know what I hate about this movie, Max, is that they go and check out the beacon and like or like all this sabotage, like stupid
Yeah.
sabotage stuff happens. I'm like, yeah, but it had to make a movie, and like, would us knowing from the outside that like maybe you shouldn't go check that beacon is like a movie thing that
Yeah, right.
we're knowledgeable of.
Um, I'm curious. Talking about like, does he ever top these two movies? Can you think of any other directors? I could think of one kind of obvious one, but I'm curious if you have any others who like have prolific careers, but like never really outdo their like most early work.
Oh
The
boy.
obvious example for me is Orson Welles.
Okay, yeah, well, with Kane, I mean, yeah,
Yeah,
because
and Ambersons to an extent as well.
yeah, because later he would do a lot of different things, and
Yeah,
like,
and some of it's interesting, but like, nothing quite as monumental as those two movies.
yeah, uh, yeah, I think like a lot of people point to like Touch of Evil, and I don't think he directed that, right? He was just in
Yeah,
it.
no, I think he directed it, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean that's still good. That's his Gladiator, sure.
Yeah, his later career goodness, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, he's still got it. Interesting just thought that, like, in terms of like career arcs, maybe this is pretty unusual.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not that Ridley Scott has like not made um profitable movies, because
Right.
obviously at this point you would be like, oh wow, he's still making movies but they're not profitable. No, that's not the case. His movies make money. And
Well, Blade Runner didn't, sort of
right,
famously.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But you're right. Like he's definitely made hits. He's had some misses. Um, so from Blade Runner 1982, his next movie is Legend in 1985, and then Black Rain 1989, and then we're up to Thelma and Louise 1991, which you saw recently. And was this your first time seeing Thelma and Louise?
Yes.
Okay, why don't you talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, so I had known from its reputation for a long time that it was like this really forward thinking movie. And it's like two girl pals on like a vacation, and it turns into something vastly different. um I, having like not seen the movie, I thought like it was a really odd movie in Ridley Scott's filmography. And like it still is, right? It's like when you look at Steven Spielberg's filmography and you see The Color Purple. I think it's like, well, what is this movie doing here? Like, when we talked about Spielberg's Blind Spots, we said that he was really asked to do that movie, so I can see like why he eventually got attached. But here, it's still kind of odd to see Ridley Scott attached. And um, it was of course, the movie owes a lot to its screenwriter, and I'm definitely going to share the screenwriter, Callie Kiori. And she wrote the script for Thelma and Louise. And it really took off from there, of these two women like on the run after starting their vacation. And watching the movie, it kind of reminded me a lot of Terrence Malick's Badlands. Like you could have like a really good double feature, or at least like comparisons between the two movies, and these people trying to escape and their lives, especially Thelma and Louise. It's like at the beginning of their movie when they want to go on their vacation, it seems like one of them is like trying to escape their deadbeat husband, and the
Yeah.
other one is trying to escape her dead end job.
Right.
And so they figure this vacation will set them free. And uh you
Well,
know
it does in some ways.
right. um Thelma meets a guy at a bar. And things go south really quickly when he tries to rape her in the parking lot. And Louise manages to get the guy off of her rather. And they're ready to go on their way to their vacation. But something within Louise just kind of snaps. And the guy kind of eggs her on and threatens her, and she ends up shooting the guy and murdering him in cold blood. And instead of going to the police, she quickly decides to run away and try to run from the cops and get to Mexico. And what's funny is like how forward thinking that, or like how sad that is, really, that this movie came out in the 90s. And it's probably not probably, it's definitely the same truth, right? Of these women who are trying to like prove that they've been raped or assaulted. And like going to the cops isn't always like a sure bet for them. And it's just terrifying to think that that hasn't really changed all that much. But like the movie itself goes on from there, and both women kind of evolve and come out of their shells, and decide that they're not going to let men make decisions in their lives anymore, and they're going to overcome it. And you know I thought it was really entertaining and really well made. Apparently, I won't spoil the ending if you haven't seen it, but like the ending is like something that's wildly discussed about if you haven't seen the movie. And um yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was I'd obviously heard good things about it. It's not like it came out of nowhere, but yeah, it was a good movie to fill a blind spot for sure.
Yeah, like I said, I watched this at a somewhat young age. I feel like I don't remember exactly, but I remember rewatching it again. I watched it in college in a film class, and we had like just like the biggest debate over it afterwards. And I wish I remembered the specifics of it, but some people just found it like I think very unrealistic, like the kind of path that they go down. And yeah, I don't know. I feel like I always really enjoyed this movie. I think it has a lot going for it. I appreciate the Badlands comparison. It's not really one that I ever really thought of, but I also feel like I haven't seen this movie since I saw Badlands, so
Right.
for the first time. So it's like maybe not something that would have been in my head. Um, but yeah, it's definitely one of his best, I think.
Yeah, they have like some like great cinematography when they're driving out and in the desert and like just trying to get away from the cops and everything and hide away and it's this I think like in general I think like Hollywood has, well at least in the olden days right in the 40s that the bad guys couldn't get away with the crime. They always had to pay somehow, but
Yeah,
it seems like it kind of runs into this movie too, right? There's a few different ways the movie could possibly end where they get to the point that they do, but
yeah, yeah. No, I think that's exactly right.
did you think it's still like the plot is still like relevant today? Like I mentioned, um like maybe Louise had a point that she shouldn't go to the cops, and I mean as you watch the movies you realize like maybe there's a reason why she didn't go to the cops in her past.
Yeah,
um but yeah, it's sad.
it's a good movie. Um, I can't say anything about his next several because I've never seen them, but 1492 Conquest of Paradise came after Thelma and Louise. I don't know anything about that, but I guess it's about like Christopher Columbus, I would assume. White Squall, I've never even heard of that. And then G.I. Jane, which I've heard of, but I've never seen, and I don't think is super well regarded, but is known for Demi Moore shaves her head and does one arm push ups.
Yes, that's what it's definitely known for.
Yeah, for sure. And then Gladiator, which I think we've talked about a bit. Is there anything else you want to add on Gladiator? Because it's kind of like, the movie he won his Oscar for. It's uh, was I think the highest grossing movie of 2000, or at least close to it. And definitely kind of it feels like when I rattle off the titles there, like nothing of major consequence for almost 10 years, and then this comes out and it's like a rejuvenation for him and this rejuvenation of a whole genre.
Yeah, it certainly seems that way, right? Because it's like, well, you gotta tip your cap to GI Jane. I think GI Jane was a commercial success, or
I
like
think so.
I certainly knew that it had a lot of buzz around it, and people were talking
Yeah,
about it. And I guess like looking at it, like that movie probably has the most in common with Thelma and Louise.
yeah, yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, Gladiator then is going to be his ticket to, I think, a pretty, like I said, a pretty prolific period here where everybody probably wants to be in the Ridley Scott business. He ends up directing after that Hannibal, which was the long-awaited sequel to Silence of the Lambs, and I never saw Hannibal. I just remember when it came out and some of the like, yeah, there's a lot of discourse. Let's say
Yeah,
for 2001, there was still a lot of discourse.
yeah, I think for me, when it came to Hannibal, I haven't seen it yet either. Considering how much I like Silence of the Lambs, was that the recasting of Charlotte of Clarice because I guess maybe Jodie Foster didn't want to do it.
Yeah, yeah. Julianne Moore plays the character now.
And Julianne Moore is a fantastic actress, no doubt about it. But
Uh,
just never really seemed like something I wanted to
Didn't seem like something that needed to happen.
Yeah.
Black Hawk Down we talked about. Matchstick Men. I've never seen Matchstick Men, but I feel like I've heard decent things about that movie.
I
Uh,
have seen Kingdom of Heaven.
I've seen Kingdom of Heaven too.
Only the director's cut, though.
Okay, I've seen both. I saw it in
Okay.
theaters. I was very intrigued, even though I could recognize that, like, even at whatever I was 17 when it came out, that like it was not like a great movie per se. But I feel like the director's cut has been kind of like claimed by people as like the hidden gem of the Ridley Scott filmography.
Yeah, this list that I see on like Letterbox of this person doing their favorite Ridley Scott movies. They have Kingdom of Heaven as their second favorite. So,
Wow, that is high praise.
yeah.
It's a good movie. I think it's a really good movie, actually. And I haven't seen it in a while, and I've been meaning to revisit it. But it's about the Crusades. It's it takes place in, I guess, the Middle Ages. That's a time period I don't know like a ton about, but um, uh, Orlando Bloom is the star, and he is, I believe, he like loses his son, and he's going to like the Holy Land to fight.
Yeah. I'm just looking at it now, and like I think I remember the most thing that they added in the director's cut was like a lot more like Ava Green
Yeah.
backstory. And
Right, because it was a
like
complicated role.
yeah, and like watching that movie and thinking about her not having too much to do in it or like being cut out just didn't make a lot of sense. So
Right.
like and we didn't mention it too much right now, but Ridley Scott is a prolific director as far as making director's cuts of his movies.
Yes.
There's probably no other director that has made as many director's cuts, and certainly from what I hear about Napoleon, I wouldn't be surprised if there's
Yes.
a director's cut.
Yeah, that was just has been discussed pretty extensively that there was some kind of like a 9-hour cut.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of wild.
But yeah, The Kingdom of Heaven is apparently a movie that wasn't super well received on initial release, but once the director's cut came out, everybody kind of came
It's
around.
like there it is. There it is. Yeah.
There's that movie. Yeah.
Then he made a movie called A Good Year, which is like Russell Crowe like regrets his life and wants to grow wine in a vineyard. I don't know if you've seen that.
No, have you?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Oh.
It's not that good.
All right.
American Gangster. That American Gangster feels like a movie that like just kind of should be better than it is, right?
I don't
Do you
know. I
agree?
haven't seen it.
You've never seen it?
No.
Oh wow, you should see it sometime. I just because I'm curious.
It's worth it then.
It's a good movie, but you're just like, wait, why isn't this like the best movie ever? You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, okay, like that's good. I'm interested in this. I get it. I'm glad I watched it. I wish it was a little bit better than it is. Denzel rules in it. I think that the Russell Crowe stuff is less compelling. It's kind of like Denzel is the gangster and Russell Crowe is the cop, and they're like operating independently for a long time. And like it's just the investigating things is not as interesting as the committing of crimes. But like I said, there's one scene in it which is just like still to this day, I was just like, I'll watch it on YouTube. I'm just like, I can't believe they did that. It's pretty cool. But yeah, it's a good movie. It's a good movie.
Okay.
Body of Lies is like the War on Terror movie that he does with, again, Russell Crowe and Leonardo DiCaprio in this one. That one's, I think, not a good movie, but I also haven't seen it since it came out.
It seems like he made like 4 movies of Russell Crowe, huh?
Yeah, they were doing a lot, and then the next one, Robin Hood, which I also saw when it came out, and I don't think that's a good movie either.
No, I saw that one too, and I can't remember much from it other than like a final like fight scene on a beach. Which was
Pretty forgettable.
cool.
Pretty forgettable.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're at like, hey, why don't we revisit the Alien franchise?
Yeah, why not?
I don't know. You tell me. Why not?
Why not? So, yeah, so Prometheus, this is a tough one
So
because
I just rewatched this.
oh, okay. Um, then I'll let you go first because
Okay.
you have it fresher.
Okay, so here's what I want to ask you. Do you remember the Prometheus trailer?
Well, wasn't it kind of like a rip on Alien?
Well, I guess kind of,
Like
but no,
an ode to
it's
the Alien trailer with the loud like
it's just
siren. And,
yeah, a little bit. It's like one of the most like exciting trailers I think I've ever seen in my life. It's just it like really just like gets you going and you're just like, "Oh my god, this is going to be the freaking coolest movie ever." And if you've seen Prometheus, you know that it is not the coolest movie ever. I that is to say that like I don't think it's a bad movie. I just think that it like it's just a little bit misguided. I think that it would probably be a lot more interesting if it wasn't related to Alien, if it was just an original sci-fi or like a prequel that's so far in the future that like there's barely any seeds of like the Alien movies in it. But because it like is trying to like shoehorn, I think, as much mythology into it as it can, it ends up uh, just kind of sacrificing some of the interesting things it has going for it.
yeah, I mean, like the Michael Fassbender character
Yeah,
is like totally something he's done before. So that
yeah, exactly. Except like less like I guess I felt like it was kind of like less satisfying, not just because it was derivative, but because it's just kind of not as compellingly thought through.
yeah.
That's I think probably the worst thing about the movie. Um, outside of there's like a really distressing sequence late in it where somebody has to have like surgery while awake.
No, I mean that is the scene though that is like this movie's like famous for.
Yeah, I
And
know, but it's still distressing.
yeah, no doubt, but I think like it's like this movie's chest burster, right? Like you were like, "Oh shit, they're not going to go there." And then like you're like, "Oh shit, they actually totally went there."
Yeah, what if we don't burst it? What if we like voluntarily open it up?
Yeah.
It's just it has so much going for it. The production design is just the coolest. Um, and the cast is really good.
I don't hate this movie, John.
No, I don't either. I don't either. But kind of like American Gangster, it's just like one that I was just like, I still wish it was better than it is.
Yeah. I should probably watch it again. I
I had,
forget.
s- yeah.
Did he do like a really like a cool edition of Prometheus too? I feel like he did another cut of it or like a super spastic
Oh, like
release
a
of it.
director's cut or some kind of thing with it.
Yeah.
I don't know. He may have. I don't. I'm not sure.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, so that was an interesting kind of rewatch for me. It's just a movie that like, man, just feels like it's tough to pin down. And again, I just want it to be special, and I find it to be like passable.
Yes.
Yeah, The Counselor I've never seen. Have you seen that movie? I know that has some defenders.
No, I have not.
Yeah, Exodus: Gods and Kings. I don't think has any defenders.
No, I have not seen that one.
Then there's The Martian. So this was like a big hit. This was a back to Sir Ridley
I, I
on top of the mountain.
I had a digital copy of this, and after I finished Thelma and Louise, the other night, I put it on for 20 minutes.
Oh, okay. So what are
Uh,
your Martian impressions?
yeah, so I had read the book
So did I.
before seeing the movie, and I was like,
Yep.
oh yeah, I could totally see why they want to make this a movie, and
Yeah.
the book reads super fast, like you could finish it in a day, and it's exciting and well written, and has the quippy one-liners like "I'm gonna science the shit out of this" and what
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
you
Yeah. Yeah.
that that do get translated to the movie. I think one of my biggest concerns of the movie ahead of time was this idea of like, who is Matt Damon really going to talk to, and like maybe this is going to be like a cast of one type of movie, because like he is, just talking to videotapes while he's up on Mars, and this is very much not a one person movie. This cast is humongous for The Martian. Not only do you have Matt Damon like trapped on Mars, but then you have like his crewmates who left when they thought he was dead, and they have to like kind of circle back to rescue him. So there's like 5 of them there, and then you have another subplot with whatever like Earth is doing.
The people on Earth are trying to like send him supplies and communicate with him.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a big sprawling cast, and it's a really exciting movie. I don't know how much of it is Ridley Scott though. That makes it work, because like there was something like, because I guess like Drew Goddard was executive producer and writer of this, and a lot of people said like maybe he had a lot of influence on this movie. I think he was set to direct it beforehand, right?
I don't know. I never knew that. I knew he wrote it.
But yeah, Drew Goddard was like, he's also written...
He did like The Cabin in the Woods.
Right, World War Z, Cloverfield. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, he's credited for a lot of things. Apparently he's been hired to do the script for the next movie that is based on a novel by the Martian author.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and Andy Weir.
Yeah, Andy Weir.
His third book was called Project Hail Mary.
Okay, and, I didn't know that. I didn't keep up.
Yeah, it's very much like The Martian, and
yeah, sure.
Phil Lord and Christopher Miller are attached to direct that. So
okay, that's interesting.
We'll see if it happens.
Cool. Yeah, I like The Martian pretty well. Matt Damon's really good in it. I think he's the best thing about it. Just a great Matt Damon kind of starring role. The one thing that I always remember about it is that like it was nominated and I think won for Best Musical or Comedy at the Golden Globes, and like somebody had like a super viral tweet which was like, oh yes, like the best comedy of the year, The Martian, and it was just like a collection of screenshots of like everyone's like worried faces in dire situations, which I always kind of got a kick out of, because I don't think I would classify it as comedy just because there's like a few jokes in it. But whatever. It's obviously not meant to be taken too seriously.
Yeah, apparently like there is also an extended cut of The Martian that was like marketed at for home video. I've never seen it. I don't think it was like as difference making as Kingdom of Heaven, which was like 40 minutes.
Yeah, sure, right.
I'm looking it up. It says like one of the websites says it's like 10 minutes was reinserted into the film. So,
okay, well, it's really, that's like a deleted scene.
Yeah.
So then revisiting the Alien world, one at least so far last time with Alien Covenant in 2017, which I never saw. And also in 2017, he directed All the Money in the World, which was just based on a true story movie. And famously, it was Kevin Spacey in kind of like one of the key supporting roles. And after he, his misdeeds and crimes were publicly kind of uncovered, they digitally dropped Christopher Plummer into that role instead. And he was Oscar nominated.
Yeah, and it became one of Christopher Plummer's last roles.
Right.
I think like his brief appearance in Knives Out was probably
that was
very last role.
Yeah, that was 2019, I think. So this was shortly before that. But
yeah, I saw both those movies.
Yeah, I didn't see either one.
Yeah, I mean they're both fine. I mean, like Covenant, I think Prometheus is more fun than Covenant is.
Yeah,
and like as good as like Noomi Rapace is and whoever they had for the sequel, like they're just not as exciting as what we had in Alien and Aliens,
Yeah, right. Obviously.
with Ripley. Um, so it's hard to get like too attached and really enjoy those movies. And the Alien Covenant did leave this idea open that there was going to be a third movie that Ridley was going to do, but that was kind of put on the back burner. And there's been like a lot of attempts to try to bring Alien back, but I don't know what Disney's going to do with it now, and because it was a Fox title, and maybe it's a promising thing that the James Cameron is getting to release Aliens on 4K. Maybe they're got to explore that franchise again some more.
Yeah, wouldn't surprise me. All right, so
We're due for a legacy sequel, right? With like Sigourney Weaver, and just like ignore that, like
oh yeah,
Alien 3, 4, whatever happened, and just like
yeah, that sounds about right.
yeah, that's what they do nowadays, right? It's just like ignore the ones that weren't successes and
Basically,
make a sequel to the last one that everyone loved.
yeah. So that's so then there was this big gap. And he came back again, as I mentioned, in 2021 with The Last Duel and then House of Gucci, which I think are both pretty fun.
I've only seen House of Gucci. I was gonna watch The Last Duel for this, but
I mean, The Last Duel is less fun than House of Gucci.
I'm sure.
But yeah, I think they're both like welcome additions to the filmography.
Yeah, Gucci was like made to be like this like big Oscar movie, and now it's probably for a what's that, the Oscar podcast? I forget it was like.
This had Oscar buzz.
Yeah, that's probably this movie in a nutshell.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect candidate. So yeah, I guess that's. I mean, and then we're up to Napoleon. So that's the Ridley Scott filmography. I'd be remiss if I didn't point out that his brother is one of my all-time favorite directors, the late great Tony Scott. I think a lot of people, probably pick a lane between the two, if given the choice. I do think that like conventional wisdom is that like Ridley is kind of a better director because he's kind of made more prestige movies, but I think that there's definitely a hive of people who think that Tony Scott's handle on action is a little bit better, and that while not exactly high art, he's got a lot of really great stuff going on in his filmography. So just wanted to give my man a shout out there.
Yeah, and I mean, like, it's obvious that Ridley Scott's next movie is going to be Gladiator 2, because the movie was in production and shooting before the strikes started, and that stars Paul Mescal.
Right.
I guess looking at the list, it also has Pedro Pascal in it and Denzel Washington. So, yeah, I don't know. I've always didn't like the idea of them making Gladiator 2, but Paul Mescal is a pretty exciting young actor. So,
it'll be interesting. I'm curious.
Yeah.
I'll see it.
Sure, why not?
Why not? All right, cool. Well, I think that's about all we've got on Sir Ridley Scott. We'll do a quick what we've been watching, but before we do that, we can let you know how to follow us. The podcast is on X at It's the Pick Pod, and Max, you're at?
John, we're not really on X anymore. I mean,
we're not on X anymore.
This whole Elon Musk thing has gotten a little too much. I deleted it off my bar. So
He a bad boy.
I won't be on X very often.
Okay, so I'm going to rewrite this again because of the social media always changing. Subscribe to our podcast, please, on Apple Podcasts or any other podcatching app. While you're there, please leave us a review. 5 stars will help other people discover and enjoy the show. We are, in fact, on Letterboxd. At It's the Pictures, you can see what we've been watching lately and some other cool lists and various things that you do on Letterboxd. And the newsletter is at itsthepictures.substack.com. And what have you been writing about of late, Max?
I think the most recent thing that I wrote for the newsletter was my big holiday list,
Ah.
where I mentioned a lot of great things you can purchase for friends and family or yourself, including a power washer if you happen to break two of them that your family let you borrow. Uh, that might be a great idea.
Perfect.
I don't know anyone like that though.
I don't. You seem like you were just making something up out of thin air, so that was good.
Yeah.
Um, I haven't really seen a ton, so unless you want me to talk about Golden Bachelor,
No, please don't.
so what have you been watching lately?
So what do you want, John? Do you want one of the hottest movies of 23 here?
Sure.
All right. So earlier in November, I went to Boston and I caught up with Yorgos Lanthimos's Venice Golden Lion winner, Poor Things. This one stars Emma Stone and William Dafoe. I'm trying to think of who else. The comedian Rami Youssef, Mark Ruffalo. I can't forget him in this. He's most of the movie, but yeah, it's as wild as a Yorgos Lanthimos film you would imagine would be. The premise is that William Dafoe's character is kind of like Dr. Frankenstein, and he likes to carve people up and do weird experiments. And one day he finds this mostly dead pregnant woman on the shore. He doesn't do very much to resuscitate her or bring her back to life. Instead, he takes out her baby and puts the baby's brain into her body. So she's inevitably being, her body's being taken over by her daughter. If you can get your head around that, you stick with me. So in the beginning of the movie, she has the intelligence of a young child, as it would be appropriate for someone that age, and doesn't quite know what to do with this body that she's been put into. William Dafoe's character kind of just like controls her life and treats her as a science experiment, and he has these grand plans for her. But one day, a crafty, conniving man played by Mark Ruffalo comes and meets her and kind of sweeps her away from her home and journeys outside of her little house. And the movie is very outrageous and no holds bars in a lot of ways. I mean, like, Yorgos Lanthimos looked at the current market of films and like how there was no sex or people were complaining about sex in movies, and was just like, I'm gonna put wall to wall sex in my movie. There's a lot of sex and Poor Things, but really it's this kind of ingenious story about a woman like growing up and learning about her whereabouts and like coming into her own, and learning not to put up with shit by anybody else. And I've drawn comparisons to like Barbie and like this like women's liberation that she gets from her life and all these experiences, even if they're really odd. And it's just quite an ingenious movie. I think that's what I like about Yorgos Lanthimos' movies, is like you don't know what to expect, and it's really clever and exciting. Whereas like so many things are pretty cookie cutter, and you know where it's going, and his movies kind of take a left turn and keep on going left until they go left off a cliff. So I'm pretty excited by Poor Things. Yeah, it's up there and one of my favorites of the year. And John, I was able to see a few more movies over the month, including like 3 from Netflix, being like Naiad, May December, and Maestro.
You talked about Naiad last time.
Yeah, and you know, Netflix has an okay slate this year. I wasn't really shocked about any of them. I'm surprised you haven't watched The Killer yet.
Yeah, I've just been going through the filmography, and was kind of waiting until I got to that point. And I just, kind of hit a little bit of a wall, and I haven't had a chance to finish that up. But it's on my list for sure.
Yeah, but I shouldn't say that. I mean, I haven't made it a priority either myself. I mean, like it's been out, and I was like, well, I didn't really make Killer a priority, and I guess Rustin is now on Netflix as well. That was one that people thought originally like Coleman Domingo was going to get
Oh,
uh,
right.
attention for, but it seems like that one has kind of simmered.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah, maybe I'll catch up with that too. I mean, Netflix every week has something, I guess. And this week, John, as we're talking, I guess tomorrow, the 22nd, they're going to release Squid Game: The Challenge.
Yes, I saw that advertised for sure.
Is that something you're going to watch?
No.
No.
I would have had to watch Squid Game, the regular show first, and I have not.
Oh.
So,
Yeah, because a lot of this is like people being excited over, oh, look, they're doing those games that were in the TV show and seeing how it happens.
right, right.
But the Golden Bachelor is pretty good.
I enjoy it. You know me.
I don't want to yuck your yum. Is an expression I know, and so if the Golden Bachelor is your bag, then I'm hoping you're enjoying it.
It's all right. I'm still watching it. Final two. Cool. All right. Well, I think that's going to wrap things up for us this time. I hope you have, or I guess had most likely, a wonderful Thanksgiving, and we will talk to you again very soon.
All right. Thanks, John.
Bye.
Bye.